If you're looking to level up your UX, content, or product design practice to confidently and joyfully tackle complexity, ask the million-dollar questions, and design digital systems that actually work, you are so in the right place. Welcome to the UX Level Up podcast. I'm Sophia Prater, and for over a decade, I've been teaching professionals how to make the most valuable and often invisible parts of UX gloriously visible. We will untangle the structure beneath the surface before jumping into screens, saving time, money, and headaches, and having so much fun doing it. Together, let's UX collaboration, break down silos, and build shared understanding that sets everyone up for success. Let's become the systems thinkers that our teams, and quite honestly, the world, are so desperately craving. Let's level up our practice and redefine what it means to be a UX designer. Let's jump into it. Allie, my dear, welcome back to the UX Level Up podcast. We are back to talk about relationship representation after talking about object representation. This is part of a little series where we're talking about the representation round and the ORCA of the representation round. So welcome back.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. I love talking about this.
And for those that are watching us on video, you might notice that we're wearing the same outfits, and we're just kind of recording all this. Well, we'll see how far we get today. But Allie, you've been owning the representation round of the ORCA process for us, which is amazing, bringing all of your skills and your eye and your background in research. For anybody that's just dropping in, hi, new people dropping in. This is Allie's fourth time on the podcast. But
I love how these are adding up because of this. Yes.
I know. Jake, who's did the prioritization round. Jake Zukovsky was like, am I like the king of the UX Level Up podcast? And I was like, you will be for like a few weeks.
Till I come around.
Until Allie comes around with her 4 episodes. But Allie Ofisher, can you introduce yourself a little bit for the people that are just dropping into the podcast, our new friends?
Oh, absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Allie Ofisher. So I switch this up each time, but I'm a UX designer consultant. I do user research as well, but really my backbone is in like systems understanding and helping teams really understand what they're building and why they need to build it. But yes, as Sophia said, I have a natural visual eye. I've done more traditional UI design in the past, and that is what led me here and my fascination and love of this representation round, because we're taking everything that we've done in the ORCA process and now going back to, okay, let's represent it, let's design it, let's create it. And then that's what I can get feedback on and show it to someone. And like, I love just that intersection of where we're at this point.
Yes. So fun.
Yeah.
And representation round it just brings everything together. So if you didn't listen to the object representation, you might want to pop back to that, but we're trying to make these all stand alone. We kind of talk about some of the evolutions of the representation round in the last year, 2 years or so, where the representation round has gotten like, I don't want to call it a glow up because like it's structurally different. Like it's gotten surgery. It's gotten surgery, and it is like way healthier now, and way more aligned, and just like does the job way better than what it was doing in the past, where it was just like, and now you, as our good friend Marisa says, now you tie a bow tie. And
oh yeah, there's so much more.
Everything of like, now you do your cards, now you do your lists, and now you do your details. And yes, we still talk about cards and details and lists and landing pages, and how that kind of comes together. But now we're like really methodically being like, how do we make our objects distinct? And now here in the representation round, or the relationship representation step, we're talking about how do we ensure that all the work we did in relationships coming up to this, going through that crazy nested object matrix, prioritizing our nested object matrix, building a nav flow, how do we make sure that after all that work that we've done, we're not introducing disconnected, isolated objects? So yeah, which is a beautiful thing. So talk to me about isolated objects. Like what are we trying to avoid here?
So we're trying to avoid where you have your multiple objects, right? And there's natural relationships between them. I might be looking at an object, and for me to understand that object, I might need to go to another object and see more information about it. But what can happen in interfaces is we'll design these representations. So it's a card or a screen, and we cut users off literally so they cannot navigate clearly to that other object and get information. I love how you've described it as like you're hitting a brick wall. You're like, I'm looking at the movie and I want to see the actors in the movie, but I have to go. I can't just click in and see those actors and then go see the information about them. I now have to go up to actors, search for them, and like find then their page. It's like a real terrible workaround, and it's not creating really useful contextual navigation.
Yeah, contextual navigation. So when we think about the navigation, so for those listening, if I say the navigation, what do you picture in your head? Do you picture the bar at the top of the screen as the navigation? Like, I would say probably, well, for those that have not gone deep with this in the OOUX world, that's what you might picture. Probably a lot of OOUXers are picturing like a system model or something like that, or maybe even a nested object matrix when they think about the navigation. Or maybe you see a sitemap, but a sitemap again is still very hierarchical, very top down. And the thing is that has not been true about the internet for a really long time. Like it really, I feel like that kind of navigation, that sort of hierarchical, let's go to the top and like navigate to some landing pages and sort of drill down into the nav is sort of a product of, we were taking chapters, we were taking like print level books and stuff and information and putting it on the web. And then there was hyperlinking, and there was this whole dream about hyperlinking, and hyperlinking happens a lot, but then to have programmatic connections between actual things, not just pages, is something that Tim Berners-Lee talked about, like at the beginning of the internet. Like that was a thing on Tim Berners-Lee's mind of like having things like other than just pages and how they might connect to each other. And you can see this happening with like Google Knowledge Graph is doing this. It's like actually thinking about the relationships, like what are the things? And so I search Brad Pitt, like I see Brad Pitt and then I see little, what we call nested objects, little nesties inside of Brad Pitt where it's like Fight Club and blah, blah, blah. And it's the only thing I can think of with Brad Pitt. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you see all of his movies. You might even see other stuff too in there. So if you look at an author, then you're going to see their books as well. So it's something that we're seeing more and more of, but we are still seeing so many isolated objects. Like we've done so many. We also have our YouTube channel together, which OOUX, we did it again where we talk about all these fails. And we have an endless supply of isolated objects to roast. Like the backlog in Notion is deep. It happens all the time. Because so many designers, when they think about the navigation, they just think about that top-down navigation versus how do the concepts connect to each other. And it's so important because it's the most natural way to navigate.
It is. And that's like not the main, like I'm not always going to enter a website or a product like from the homepage. And you have to remember that. Like I could be entering in because I searched for Fight Club. And then I get there and then I'm like, oh, actually, I want to go and learn more about Brad Pitt. And like, if we want to keep people engaged with the content on our sites, like it should be connected really, really well. And you need to understand what those connections are, like, and what's most important to people. And that's what I love about doing something like a nested object matrix is that you make sure that you understand holistically, not like what are all the relationships, but also you can get a sense of which ones do I not really know are useful for people.
Okay, so Allie, when it comes to isolated objects and you're seeing like users hit a wall, the things that are connected in the user's mental model are not connected on the screen. Okay, what is that a deeper symptom of actually? Like what does that tell you about how the product team is working and maybe some like systemic issues there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, what I see is typically a team is not going to have a clear understanding of really what the end user is dealing with, like what they're trying to accomplish, what information they need to accomplish that thing. They just don't have a good understanding of the user's, I'll say the word mental model, but what I really mean is like what's important to them, what do they care about, and like how it relates to a process too. I think this comes when we get to broken objects is going to be a little bit more about the like process that someone goes through to complete a task. But we see it here with isolating too, because sometimes it's like if I'm doing this task or if I'm using this information, I might really want this information to support me. And I need to understand why someone is going to need that over here.
I have an example of this. Yeah, I have an example of this, what you're talking about. So this happened. Oh my gosh, I feel like I complain about this all the time, but it's been a few years maybe since I've complained about this. And it might not be true anymore, but I was trying to review a product on Etsy. Like, so they sent me the email and they were like, review this product. And I like to do the reviews for products I like for the makers out there on Etsy. And so I clicked through to give a review and I had gotten this amazing like table thing, but it had like a little bit of damage on the back. Like I really liked the table, but it did have a little bit of damage on the back. And I was like, it's very likely that they told me about the damage and I just didn't notice it and I just bought it anyway. So I wanted to go back to the product listing to see like, okay, like, was it clear that there was damage or did they, cause like maybe it's only 4 stars, right? If they like didn't show a picture of like this big watermark and like kind of like pretty significant damage to it. And I was in the like write the review and there was no way, like there was like the little thing at the top that showed me the product and the product name and I'm like rage clicking on it. I'm like, no, show me the listing. So it wasn't connecting the product to the listing. No, it wasn't connecting the review to the listing. And that shows to me a like as a user, what I feel is I'm like, you don't understand me. You don't really understand how me and probably a significant amount of people think about the review. They might buy a lot of things at the same time and they might have it at their home, but it's like, wait, how much did I pay for this? Again, it came a week ago. I'm finally getting to the review and you need to kind of remind yourself on what the listing actually was. And I was talking to somebody about this. It might've been Abby Covert when she was working at Etsy. And she was mentioning that like this could very well be because of business reasons where they don't want to connect it because they want you to write the review. And somebody has a metric of how many reviews, right? And if you like get them clicking off, they're going to get distracted. And so this comes back to like us having really good backup, like to not be able to say like, well, I just feel like if they can see the picture, you should be able to click through it. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. You need to have a better argument to be like, okay, like this is a trust thing. This is people feeling understood. We don't have to make it like really like highlighted or something, but if somebody is like really wants to go there, like I ended up not writing the review because I was so mad. So like when you do these things for business reasons, they can kind of shoot you in the foot. And also like we want to make sure our metrics are actually aligned to good user experiences and growing people's trust and loyalty with the product. So yeah,
absolutely.
And that's what you were talking about, right? Like those things like not connected, right?
Exactly. I'm nodding along. And I'll just say, this is where I would also say that the group doesn't have a good understanding of the actual use cases people are going to encounter. And the way you get that is with user research. You got to observe and see what people are actually trying to do when going through your processes. And just even simple observational usability testing, seeing, okay, when you went there, that might be an edge case. That might not be everyone. But if I could see and then take back to the team and say, here's the thing. When you do a review, you want to go back and look at that listing and see the review or see pictures. Like that can be really helpful and that's important. And if I can articulate that, if the team can, like, then you can also back up, like, this is why it's important. You know, we need to have that relationship.
And there can be compromises. Like I'm designing in my head, like maybe it just expands it out or like puts it in a modal or something. So like, it's not taking me I'm not going into like a rabbit hole or anything, but it's like, show me the details of the listing. Like, so I can scroll through the images. So it's like a quick view type thing, right? So maybe it doesn't take me all the way to the product detail page where now it's hard for me to get back. Like we don't want that either, but
No.
Give me a little quick view, give me a little peek. Maybe it's like, and you could even do the user research to be like, when you're reviewing a thing, what are the most important attributes that you want surfaced? So maybe those are already surfaced and then you can like hover over and see more and it just pushes the review thing down so you don't leave the page or anything.
Yes.
But we can have compromises here that everybody, or like that's not even a compromise. It's like an everybody wins, right? That's good for the user too, because they can stay focused. They don't want to go down a rabbit hole either. They want to write the review and get out. So, and then there's probably some other business persons being like, connect it because we want them to go through a rabbit hole and buy more stuff. And you're like, as a designer, just like, what do I do? But this like can bring you back to what you do. You do
This is like, that's the fun part about interaction design, I think, is, okay, now I have these constraints. So the business says, okay, we want to make sure we don't get them distracted and we need to make sure they still complete the review. And I can, create different designs and actually test out and get some metrics on, do they finish the review or not? Do they get distracted? Like you can do really cool prototyping and testing and figure that out. Yeah. But like that's a fun constraint to have because it's like I'm trying to make sure they can get that information because we know it's important, but I also don't want them to forget about this review. So what can I do visually to make sure? And that's fun. That I love.
Yeah. And you have this baseline like, oh, I don't want to create an isolated object. but what's the win-win? So another thing, Allie, that I'm wondering if you've seen, but like if I'm thinking about the symptom, like if I see a bunch of isolated objects, a couple other symptoms that came to mind. One is that maybe like the site is just really dated in its legacy.
Yes.
Because there's something in the back end that doesn't allow connections to happen. So maybe you're in some sort of CMS or something that just like you don't, like programmatic connections are not great. So like, is this a replatforming issue? Like, like, so it's something to talk to the technology side about too. Like, why are we not connecting these things? Is there some sort of big technical constraint? And then there's also things we can do, even if there is a technical constraint, that we can hack it a little bit to keep things connected. But I would look into that. And then the other one that I want to bring up to you is just silos. Just like right hand not knowing what the left hand is doing. Like if you've got let's go back to our zoo example that we were talking about in our previous episode. But like if you're the zoo, let's say it's like something that's the San Diego Zoo. They got a big UX team, right? And you've got one person who's responsible for the animal detail page. And then you've got another person that's responsible for the membership page. And let's say in the mental model, I'm just going to make something up on the spot here, that like users, we find out through research that users want to donate to the zoo, but to a particular animal. Okay. So they want to like favorite animals. They want to, so there's a connection between like, I've donated to this animal, but now I want to like check back in with this animal. So there's a connection between like the membership, member detail page and the animal, because I want to I will go to my member detail. I want to see my favorite animals there. And maybe even like if I go to the animal detail, like with some sort of level of anonymity that I can express, you see my face of like donors, like supporters of this animal. How freaking cool is that? It could make donations go through the roof because you're emotionally connected to it. Jake and I talked about this in a previous episode of just like the emotional connection between stuff. But yeah, if you have those different silos and those people are not talking together and you're not thinking about this, you're going to design your little detail page of the animal, and then there's going to be the little detail page of the membership, and they're not going to talk to each other. And it's almost like when the objects aren't talking together to each other, maybe the people aren't talking to each other either.
I love that. That is such a good sign to look out for. Yes. And like what you're saying here reminds me of how the nested object and thinking about nested object matrix and thinking about the relationships can lead to such cool innovation and a better experience. Like just that example right there. I'm already like that. It can be fun. It doesn't have to be really like, what are the dry, like really dry? Like you can come up with some really cool and unique ways that are going to set your product apart from other competitors. And like that is gold. Like you want to be able to show that.
The connections. I mean, that would have like, I just did that in my head, but like that conversation would come up naturally if you were doing a nested object matrix with animal and member. And you'd be like, well, what is the connection between animal? What do people want? Oh, you know what? I was in a meeting once when I heard this, that like people really want to donate directly to the animal. Oh, let's send out a quick survey. Let's get the results back tomorrow. And we see that 50% of people would be more likely to donate or something. And let's run a little test. Let's run a little experiment on that to see how it works. And now all of a sudden people are donating to individual animals and tracking them. And then like they go to the zoo more because they want to visit their animals and everything. And maybe you can even like see the little cam. I'm going totally. This is it feels so creative. It feels so expansive. It does not feel constrained at all. It's constrained in the right ways, but I don't feel like OUX. I don't know. We already talked about that.
No soapbox on this one. But I will say this is where collaboration really comes in. Like I don't know who's I'm guessing a lot of UXers are listening, but this is also really powerful for product owners. Product owners, like being able to understand and have, if you can facilitate talking through a nested object matrix with your group, like this is where you're going to have this innovation. It is so much fun. And then back to your legacy. I just want to touch on this. I've worked on a lot of legacy products. This is a way, like your developers would love nothing more than to be preemptively thinking about how the architecture and what maybe APIs they can get, because that's how they innovate and that's how they have fun. I won't speak fully for them, but I mean, I've seen them they would have loved to know that before they saw the final screen design. And we're having this kind of conversation without any screen design. We can be looking at our old legacy product and say, actually, this is missing here, this relationship. What can we do to get that? Oh, okay, let me do a little tech spike and see, like, can we get that information, or where is it? Like, that's where you're all partnering together to make something really cool.
It's such a beautiful thing. And I've had the exact same experience with bringing developers in early on this, so that like they're not getting it 6 weeks later or 3 weeks later and they're like, I can't do this. And then the reaction to it, it's human nature of, if like something is just dropped in your lap without any context and without any, like, nobody's asking you or anything like that, you're going to balk at it. You're going to be like, no, I can't do that. Versus I was brought in early. I got to have the conversation. I was part of the conversation. I see the value of connecting these things. And now I feel a little bit ahead of the game. Like, there's no screens yet. So I can go start playing with, like, ooh, how do I get these things to start talking to each other? Yeah. And then we're popping all over the place, but I do want to go back to like the silos, and some people listening might be like, well, what am I going to do? Like, I'm going to do a reorg or something. Like, I can't do a reorg. No, you do a nested object matrix. You do a nested object matrix. You think about your nested objects. You figure out, you look at how isolated things are. You make a case for it. And then you do an nested object matrix, which can be a fun, like, frame it as a game. Like, we're just going to play this little game. We're going to line up our objects on the x-axis and the y-axis, and we're going to explore the connections. We're going to explore some cardinality or just some system modeling if you're not versed in a nested object matrix. Boxes and arrows, how do these things connect to each other? That can break down the silos. You're starting, like, just doing that. And that is the essence of servant leadership. Like, you're not going to be like, I can't do a reorg, so I'm just going to roll over and deal with this stuff. Like, no, like, go start trying to UX the collaboration, and you can have this amazing grassroots effort where you're starting to get like this team and this team talking to each other and see like, oh, I'm responsible for this and I'm responsible for this, but these two things connect to each other. So let's hold hands and figure this out together.
Absolutely. I love it. I mean, I've been in those rooms with groups like the NOM. Sorry, I'm keep using the acronym. Nested Object Matrix.
NOM, NOM.
NOM, NOM, NOM. It is intense, but it is so satisfying with a group of people, because you do like have these aha moments, and it is just a wonderful, it's really important to do collaboratively. That's what I'll say. And you'll see the power of it, and it's fun.
Connect your objects will connect your teams.
Yes. Connect your objects, connect your teams, get rid of any isolating. Your users will be happy. Your teams will be more in tune with each other and understanding each other, and you'll innovate and come up with some really unique ideas too.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit before we close out. Let's talk a little bit like putting your research hat on when you're seeing like things are disconnected, but you're not sure. You're like, should these things be connected? Like, does somebody want to navigate from this thing to this thing? Like, what kind of questions do you ask to ascertain, like, is this a problem? Is this not a problem?
Yeah. I mean, my go-to is always first, before I get specific. Like, I don't like to just flat out ask and be like, okay, you're looking at this animal. Would you like to go and see, or you're looking at your membership, your donations you've made. Do you want to go see the animal? Like, you don't want to ask it that cut and dry.
Yeah, leading question.
Exactly. Thank you. Sure. Yes, leading question. Sure. Okay. Yeah. I like to ask a classic research question of just like, hey, go through your process the last time you've done this. Can you just talk me through what you did? And then I'll hear like, okay, well, first I went over to the donate page and maybe, I donated, but I really wanted, like, I just really care about the gorillas or something. And I would really love to see, like, I don't know, I'm making this up, but like if they're describing their process and what they go through, I can then kind of reverse engineer what they said and start to compare, especially if you're interviewing multiple users, right? Which you should be, start to see where there's patterns and where, okay, when you're looking at this, it is really important, or you are likely to go and look at this. That information is going to be useful. So let's put that there and let's prioritize it. And that helps you. The more you can hear people describe those things.
So like for another example, like let's take like event an animal. And again, we're talking about like specific animals. So would you say like, let's say I'm wondering if we should make the effort of like when an event is coming up and it's like with the gorillas, do people want to know which specific gorillas? Like this is an event with, I'm going to say like Harambe, or this is an event with Chico or something like that. Like would that like doing that, well, let's say like from a perspective of the park rangers, they're not zookeepers, like
zookeepers.
No, zookeepers. We were calling them park rangers in the last episode. Zookeepers. Maybe from the zookeepers are like, oh, that's easy. Like we always know exactly which animals are going to be at which events. So like from a business perspective, they're like, cool, easy. Like we can, if that's going to help people coming to the events, then sure. Like, how would you kind of like talk to users about that to figure out like, instead of just being like, so do you care about which animals are at the event?
I mean, okay, a couple things come to mind. If you already have a prototype of it, I love showing people things. It's really easy to just say, okay, here's the detail page, show it and see what they say. Again, like starting with, okay, what do you notice here? And then being like, hey, what's most important here? What could you get rid of if like what's not really useful here? That's really helpful. If you don't have a prototype, that's okay, right? Like you can still ask like, okay, say you're going to an event at the zoo. What information do you need to know before you go there? What would be interesting to know that maybe you're not thinking, like just get them to talk about it. They might not bring up animals, but they might say something like, oh, well, my daughter like really enjoys when we go see this one gorilla and we go every weekend. And so like, I would want to go to the event and make sure that gorilla is part of it. Then that kind of lights up. Yeah. Oh, okay. Maybe that would be important. So two different ways. You can get stuff through just interviewing and asking questions, having them describe and hearing like scenarios again, or showing and just being like, hey, is there anything that's like missing here? Is there anything that you want to remove? That's not
the removing question is great. That's a great prioritization question because I mean, I remember when I would do user research and testing, and it would be similar questions like, what's the most important here? What do you like? Not what do you like about this page? That's very leading. But
what do you notice about this page?
What do you notice is most important? Yeah. But the question of what would you remove, or like, or if you had to remove three things, like what would you remove? Yes. That is so telling because it's like if it's the nested object, like it could be an attribute too, or in some other really it's just attributes and nested objects, but like, or maybe a button, but. Yeah. Asking that is so cool. If they're like, oh, like, well, why is it showing like which specific animals? Like, why would I care? Yes. And if you get like a massive number of people, if you do 6 interviews and 5 of them are like, why am I seeing the animals here? I don't know who these animals are.
You can also ask like, hey, what would you do with this information? Okay, it's there. What would you do with it?
Oh, that's such a good question.
I wouldn't do anything with it. This is a piece of like, I don't want this here. I don't get it. Then that's
I didn't even notice it.
I didn't even notice it. All of that is good information. Yeah. So you're just trying to prompt to get them to talk. What would you do with this here?
That's such a good question. Like, because to see how they like, would you explore that? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Allie, thank you so much. I learned so much during this. Let's come back for CTA representation and talk about button placement and when that goes wrong.
This is my spiciest. Broken objects. What we're going to talk about there is the biggest, the one I hate the most out of the UX fails. The one that it makes me the angriest.
Okay, well, I'm excited.
I'm excited for that one. All right. But until then, happy OUXing.
Thank you so much for listening to the UX Level Up podcast. If you want to connect with me, Sophia, please follow me on Instagram at SophiaVUX, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Sophia Prater. I'm pretty easy to find there. Our music was brought to you by Ruby Vell, courtesy of Sugaroo Records. Thanks again for listening.